In a distant future, so distant that your mind probably can't imagine it, mankind has conquered space and built an empire. Having crushed the alien races that had the audacity to resist its ambitions, the human hegemony has placed its flag on nearly 10 million planets across the galaxy. In these troubled times, tinged with decadence and internal wars, life has lost its sacredness, and the most popular game, broadcasted throughout the Empire, is Space Hell. The concept is simple. 1,000 prisoners, condemned to death, are dropped on an extremely hostile planet. For 9 months, they must not only survive the countless dangers that await them in the planet's environment, be it fauna or flora, but also kill their competitors, the other prisoners. To do so, each participant in the game is equipped with a cyber combat armor with multiple implants and improvements. The playing area is initially equivalent to that of France, a country of the holy planet Earth. As the months go by, this area shrinks until, at the beginning of the 8th month, it reaches the size of a large city. The armor worn by prisoners is equipped with explosives. If a participant leaves the playing area, his cybersuit explodes. If, after 9 months of play, there is more than one surviving participant, all survivors' armor explodes simultaneously, and the game is considered to have had no winner. The same applies if all participants died before the end of the 9th month. To date, 141 editions of Space Hell have ended without a winner. If at the first hour of the first day of the 10th month, only one participant remains alive, he is declared the winner. He is absolved of all his crimes, becomes a celebrity throughout the galaxy, and is immediately recruited by one of the great megacorporations of the human hegemony to work for it in a prestigious position, and even has the right to keep his cybernetic armor, in addition to receiving an immense amount of money. So far, there have been exactly 999 editions of Space Hell, repeated every 5 years, terrestrial years. The 1000th edition promises to be one of the most awaited events by the whole of humanity, and will probably break all the game's audience records ever set. For the occasion, it is not just 1,000 prisoners who will have to kill each other, but 10,000 of them. This edition of Space Hell will be the biggest bloodbath ever broadcast. And you know what? You're going to be part of it. Your crime. Your cell door opens with an electric crackle. 3 jailers enter the room and disable the energy links that usually hold you motionless, pressed against the steel wall. Starpit 61 Detention Center is the most impenetrable high-security prison in this sector of the galaxy. You are one of the prisoners chosen to participate in the 1000th edition of Space Hell. What crime did you commit to find yourself in this situation? Murder. You were charged with murder. Perhaps you are a dangerous psychopath, a serial killer who scoured the dark alleys of a hive city to murder lonely young women. Or perhaps you were a professional, cold and meticulous hitman who made a mistake in the contract that led to his arrest. Maybe even this murder was just an accident. Anyway, you have blood on your hands and are one of the most supervised inmates in the penitentiary. Space piracy. Space banditry is a real scourge. You were part of a pirate ship, traveling the galaxy to smuggle, attack, and loot isolated space stations or traffic slaves in the most remote regions of the human empire. Anyway, your ship finally crossed paths with law enforcement, and most of your companions were killed. Luckily, or woefully, depending on the point of view, you survived and were arrested before being sent to Starpit 61 Detention Center. Heist. You were a burglar, one of the best. Your thefts made the front pages of a whole star system for months. However, you ended up being too greedy and attacking a much too protected target. The place you tried to infiltrate was full of traps and security systems of all kinds. One of them was fatal to you. The alarm went off and you tried to escape, but you weren't fast enough. and the last thing you felt before you fainted was the electric shock in your back. Illegal hacking. Hacking is a thriving business in the galaxy. Many corporations afford the services of professional hackers to hack into the security systems of rival companies. These hackers are protected by their employers and risk nothing. As a shadow hacker, working in the underground for particularly dangerous individuals such as mob members, gang leaders, and rebel networks, you weren't protected at all and ended up getting arrested. Political dissent. The extremely authoritarian and aristocratic regime of the human hegemony, as well as its propensity to exterminate the undesirable elements of galactic society, whether they be Xenos people or Imperial citizens, doesn't please everyone. So many resistance movements are constantly born here and there in the galaxy. You were part of one of those small groups, fiercely fighting the forces of Empire. Now you're just a political prisoner among many. War crime. War is a horrible thing, and some individuals who practice it are even more horrible. Whether you've been a simple soldier at the bottom of the hierarchy or an officer with heavy responsibilities, you've committed actions or given orders unforgivable from an ethical viewpoint, and this, even for the forces of the Empire, however well known for their cruelty towards their foes. It was the Imperial Army itself that arrested you to stop your abuses. Judicial error. Since your arrest, you've been claiming your innocence. You absolutely did not commit the crimes for which you are accused. Yet, no one has agreed to listen to you. After all, Imperial justice is extremely expeditious, and all the evidence pointed to you as the perfect culprit. Now it's up to you to survive and get out of this situation. Proving your innocence may be impossible, but you can still win this damn game. Space hell. Willing participant. The galaxy is full of crazed, bloodthirsty madmen whose survival instinct is very limited. It's no wonder that a game like Space Hell attracts a lot of them. You have asked to be taken prisoner voluntarily and to participate in this game without being an inmate sentenced to death. The producers of the show agreed, considering this as a perfect opportunity to spice up this 1000th edition. As for you, you can't contain your excitement anymore. Finally, you'll be able to kill freely. The planet. The jailers gather in a vast room with white walls. The 50 prisoners chosen to participate in the game. It is the number of participants coming from the Star Pit 61 prison. The 9,950 others come from countless other prisons scattered throughout the galaxy. A giant screen has been placed in the center. In a few seconds, the name of the planet on which the long-awaited 1000th edition of Space Hell will take place will be displayed. The place where you, your fellow inmates, and many other criminals you don't know yet will kill each other in a bloodbath never seen before in the show's history. Rohiri. Rohiri is a planet with a tropical climate, mostly covered with vast grassy plains, savannas, and deep, foggy swamps. The heat is constantly stifling and dry, even in the heart of the darkest marshes. The fauna and flora of Rohiri are very developed. There are incredible animals, majestic flying beasts, and huge scaly mammals roaming the plains in herds, but also sumptuous plants with amazing properties. For a very long time, Rohiri was a privileged place for the rich aristocrats of the Empire to hunt and bring home skeletons and corpses of exotic creatures. However, be careful not to believe that this planet is a paradise. First of all, Rohiri is a populated planet. The human beings who live there, in vast primitive and wild tribes, are ferocious cannibals, bathed in a martial culture more bloody than all that it is possible to imagine. They worship evil and cruel gods who require hours of torture and torment for their sacrifices. It is also said that among these tribes the psionics are revered as demigods and are of a power that would make some great imperial war psionics pale. Able to unleash the elements and shake mountains, they are the champions of the indigenous Rohirians. The animals of Rohiri also represent an exceptional danger. They are all extremely ferocious and have all, for some mysterious biological reasons, evolved to present terrifying physical abilities. Titanic strength, staggering resistance, monstrous running speed, devastating biting power. Surviving on this planet is a constant struggle, a deadly war against the natives and the ruthless wildlife of the place. And that's not even counting the other inmates. New Dusk. New Dusk is initially a crazy and utopian project, a giant city covering an entire planet, founded by a wealthy aristocrat of the Empire, Hans Dusk. The place was intended to bring together an entire population of Hans Dusk clones, replicating his intelligence. Hans Dusk was indeed a brilliant scientist at the origin of many technological advances. He believed that New Dusk would become the nerve center of the galaxy's scientific development, populated by tens of billions of reproductions of himself, working tirelessly for the greatness of the Empire. To build his planet city, Hans Dusk chose a depopulated and mainly arid planet on the borders of the Empire at the time. What he didn't know was that this planet had once also been populated by an extremely advanced extraterrestrial civilization. These aliens, however, had almost all been eradicated by something born on this planet long before them. The few survivors had fled, managing to seal in the depths of the planet the things that had annihilated their people. These things, Hans Dusk woke them up. Needless to say, Hans Dusk and his clones soon ceased all contact with the rest of the Empire. When the Empress sent her elite forces to analyze the situation, the threat posed by the things inhabiting the planet was deemed so immense that the entire sector was isolated and placed in quarantine, and all the neighboring planets were evacuated. Today, New Dusk is nothing more than an endless silent city, spreading as far as the eye can see, almost devoid of any life, invaded by a mysterious mist in which Lovecraftian horrors roam, waiting to devour new victims. Valsarin. Also known as Green Hell, Valsarin is a small planet located on the edge of the galaxy, covered with dense forests and impenetrable jungles. It's very simple. On Valsarin, everything tries to kill you. Each planet is as dangerous as any bestial predator, able to grab its prey with its prehensile roots or devour an animal the size of an ox in seconds. Each fruit hanging from a tree can contain a poison 10 times more lethal than the most violent toxin known within the Empire. Each insect can potentially bite you and lay larvae under your skin that will develop in your body and eat you from the inside. Rare and incomprehensible diseases abound in Valsarin, and a simple scratch is enough to catch a deadly infection or a terrifying virus. Some experiments were conducted secretly in underground laboratories of the empires of Mars, where political prisoners were inoculated with diseases from Valsarin. The effects were as frightening as they were disgusting. Some guinea pigs saw their skin literally melt on their limbs. Others had eyes that swelled so much in their sockets that they eventually exploded. Still others literally vomited their organs, intestines, stomach, lungs. A virus was even found to slowly liquefy the victim's bones and muscles for weeks. However, one of the worst plagues of this planet is a Kanatala, a parasite whose method of transmission is still unknown by the Imperial scientists, who takes mental control of his victims and transforms them into some kind of rabid zombies, suffering perpetually and seeking to ease their unbearable physical pain by biting and devouring other living beings around them. Siestra. For a long time, Siestra was the ideal place for space pirates to sow their pursuers, often Imperial ships. That's not surprising given the characteristics of this planet. Siestra is a desert and arid world, mostly covered with deserts, stretching as far as the eye can see, and ochre rock formations, hiding within them, in caves and underground networks, countless forgotten temples, once built by an ancient civilization, but also secret bases for the various pirate gangs that lurk in the sector. On this planet, the weather is absolutely infernal. Heat peaks in the middle of the day, can boil a man's blood in his veins. At night, the temperature drops sharply to extremely low temperatures, and it is easy to die of hypothermia. The sandstorms that regularly sweep the surface of Siestra are also deadly dangers to be avoided above all else. During these cataclysmic storms, the grains of sand are projected in all directions by a very powerful wind, at a speed that such a man who would be naked in the middle of the storm would be skinned alive in less than a few seconds. To protect themselves, Siestra's animals have evolved, and almost all live underground, swimming in the sand dunes or digging in the rock. The most dangerous species are the oasis eaters, gigantic earthworms, several dozen meters long, and as thick as tree trunks, which gush out of the ground to devour their prey. The Ventranis, tiny flying scorpions, almost smaller than midges, who live in caves and whose venom is reputed to cause the worst pain in the whole galaxy. The only pirates who still dare to land their ship on Siestra today are either the craziest or the most ignorant. Nemessa V5. Perhaps you will have a better understanding of the harshness of life on Nemessa V5, knowing that this small icy moon, orbiting around the planet Nemessa, was for a time used as a training ground for the Grey Snakes, the elite space forces of the Imperial Army, an overtrained regiment composed of the galaxy's most experienced soldiers, masters of the most sophisticated hostile environment survival techniques. On a 3-month stay on the Nemessa V5, the survival rate within a cohort of 500 soldiers was about 1 man in 3. The planet is today abandoned by the human hegemony, although it is at the heart of its borders. There still lives a disparate people of very hostile Xenos humanoids, organizing themselves into nomadic clans. On the Nemessa V5, cold is your main enemy. The Empire had built bunkers at the foot of some huge mountain ranges that cover the surface of the planet to shelter the Grey Snake soldiers during their training. However, the cold was so intense that even the thick walls of these buildings were not enough to protect their occupants. The planet is traversed by giant creatures, several tens of meters high, whose shape reminds that of the elephants of the Earth. They move slowly, leaving behind them footprints in the snow as wide and deep as meteorite craters. There is also a very strange phenomenon on this planet. Sometimes, in the frozen tundras of the Nemessa V5, it starts to fall pink snow. This one has very intense hallucinogenic properties, and all who are touched by it start to consider their own body as an absolutely delicious food, and to devour themselves. Red Pearl. The planet known as the Red Pearl is a volcanic planet, covered with ash plains and rocky mountains blacker than night, dotted with large rivers of magma. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Empire considered building many prisons to house the most dangerous and unstable prisoners in the area. However, after several months of testing, the project proved to be a failure. Neither the prisoners nor the jailers survived more than a week or 2 on this planet, so the buildings were abandoned and probably no longer even exist today, buried under tons of ash and solidified magma. The animals that live on the Red Pearl are almost all covered with thick scales or skin so solid that no laser weapon will be able to pierce it. The reason is very simple. It rains very often on this planet, an acid and extremely corrosive rain. Every drop is more dangerous and potentially more lethal than any pistol bullet. Some evidence suggests to Imperial scientists that this planet was, in such distant times, that life did not even exist on Earth yet, terraformed by an alien race now extinct. The most intriguing thing is that before its terraforming, the planet was very probably entirely green, and had a very developed fauna and flora. The hypothesis of most scientists is that this terraformation was intended to create the planet with the most lethal and naturally unbearable climate possible. But why? Another theory argues that this climate was actually conceived as protection against external aggressors, and the alien race responsible for it still lives on this planet. Or rather, inside the planet. Your armor model. It would be futile to try to survive on your own for more than a few days on such a planet. This is why each participant of Space Hell is equipped throughout the game with a cyber armor, allowing him to both fight and protect himself. What makes the game so interesting is that each participant can adopt a different survival tactic than his competitors. That is why before each game, each participant is free to choose the armor model that best suits his playstyle, and that he will wear for 9 months. You see a jailer approach you and present you a touchpad on which is listed the different armor models offered. Which one do you choose? Shadow, ultralight model. Pick 2, camouflage system, silent steps, or night vision. Pick 1, body signature eraser, or radar jammer. This cybersuit is made of a polymer alloy whose weight is almost 0. Extremely supple, it takes the shape of the wearer's body and forms a second skin. Initially conceived 600 years ago by the Dragazian assassins, a Xenos people today subservient to the human hegemony, the concept of this armor was recovered by the Empire scientists and improved. The Shadow model is now frequently used by human infiltration forces or during guerrillas. It is indeed the ideal type of armor to infiltrate a place discreetly, strike the enemy in the form of lightning raids, then disappear in the night without leaving a trace. However, while this suit offers its wearer unparalleled flexibility, agility and comfort, it is very weak and offers almost no option dedicated to its protection. It is thus not an armor adapted to the frontal combat, but more to the assassination. Hermes, light model. Pick 2, improved running module, propulsion engine, or reflex amplifier. Pick 1, vibrating blades, or electric shock. The Hermes model is a type of armor frequently worn by diamond ball players, one of the most violent and popular sports in the galaxy. This armor is a concentrate of speed and precision, dedicated to the fast movements of its carrier. Shortly after its conception, the Imperial Army understood its potential and equipped many of its soldiers with it, understanding how well this armor was adapted to the rapid elimination of their enemies on the ground. However, this armor is not as suitable for combat as the heavier models. It's pretty fragile, and is not suitable for long battles, but rather for short and intense fights. Moreover, if the movements of the Hermes armor are extremely fast, they are absolutely not discreet, and are not at all suitable for infiltration. Wanderer, medium light model. Pick 2, internal alarm, improved thermo adapter, or water purifier. Pick 1, bacteria killers, or food generator. The Wanderer model is one of the oldest in the Empire, yet one of the most effective. Designed in the very distant times when mankind was just beginning to spread out of the solar system and it was necessary to set foot on planets with environments extremely hostile to human life, this armor has been continually improved for millennia by the most brilliant of Imperial engineers. The aim of this model is to ensure the long-term survival of its isolated carrier in any type of environment. This armor is not necessarily adapted to combat, although it can allow its carrier to defend itself against local predators, but it guarantees its carrier to be always healthy, to be able to eat food and consume drinking water, to be protected against extreme climates, etc. Today, this suit is still the most used and sustainable tool of the Empire's exploration units. Neutralizer, medium heavy model. Pick 2, Power Fist, Shockwave, or Energetic Armor. Pick 1, Jetpack, or Machine Gun. The Neutralizer model is relatively new and was designed 20 years ago. Geared towards combat, this armor, used primarily by Imperial soldiers and the various space mercenary companies that constantly roam the galaxy, offers its carrier great versatility on the battlefield. A balance between an attack force high enough to get rid of just about any type of enemy and defensive capabilities, allowing its carrier to get out of many delicate situations. The great effectiveness of this cyber armor has been proven time and time again in the most recent wars that have opposed human hegemony to the Xenos peoples who threaten its borders. Relatively good speed of movement, great durability, high attack strength. This armor combines all the advantages with very few weaknesses. Goliath, heavy model. Pick 2, battering ram fist, shield, or flamethrower. Pick 1, small portable cannons, or overshielding. This monstrous armor, whose production cost is extremely expensive, turns its carrier into a real living war tank. The materials that make up this model are among the strongest in the galaxy, a set of alloys designed to withstand almost any shock and ensure the survival of its carrier. The destruction capacity of the Goliath model is also very high. The elite units of the Imperial Army that use this model are called the Black Rhino, and they are known to be able to reverse the course of a battle from their mere presence. However, such firepower and durability can only be obtained by sacrificing the mobility of the carrier, as well as the speed of movement of the armor. Particularly heavy, this model offers only rather slow movements, although some features can be added to improve this aspect. Bastion, ultra heavy model. Pick one, Fortress or Titan Cannon. There is an Imperial weapon that every Xenos warrior fears above all, the very famous Bastion armor. This model, 4 meters high and weighing several tons, is a real, unstoppable war machine, looking more like a moving building than a cybernetic armor, endowed with an unfailing protection and an extraordinary destructive power. The interior is so vast that the wearer, unlike the other models, does not wear the armor. He pilots it from a small and rather comfortable control room equipped with multiple screens, located in the torso of the armor. Of course, this armor moves extremely slowly and loudly, and its gestures are very inaccurate. Its robotic hands, for example, are unable to handle small objects. But these weaknesses are compensated by its incredible power, and its ability to get rid, on its own, of an entire squad of Xenos soldiers with an inconceivable ease. After a few minutes, during which the jailers stop in front of each inmate to present him the list of models, it seems that all the prisoners have made their choice, including you. "Follow me," finally says one of the jailers to the inmates. "We're now going to customize your armors. You're gonna love this." Your armor features. You and the other prisoners are being taken to a new room. Each inmate is placed in front of a screen, levitating above the ground, on which he can tick different boxes, each corresponding to a feature to be added to his armor. What makes Space Hell so interesting is that several prisoners who have opted for the same armor model may well decide to adopt very different game styles. To guarantee a great variety in the methods of combat and survival in all participants, the show's organizers allow them, after the selection of their armor, to customize it by adding implants, additional defense mechanisms, extra weapons, cybernetic improvements, etc. However, to maintain fairness, each feature selected by a participant costs points, and all participants initially have the same number of points. You have 10 points. Pick as many features as you want, if you can pay the price, that you don't already choose during the model choice. All the armors, whatever their model or the characteristics you choose later, are equipped with a green screen on the palm of the right hand, which permanently indicates the vague direction of the participant closest to you, north, northeast, east, southeast, south, etc., without really indicating you the exact direction or giving you any information on the distance which separates you from him. This was added to the game after the 5th edition of Space Hell, which had ended without any of the participants crossing each other for the whole game, despite the constant shrinking of the game area. Combat features. Battering Ram Fist, 1 point. The fists of your armor are considerably reinforced, and its arms, equipped with hydraulic rams, allow you to give punches as powerful as a small car thrown at full speed. Power Fist, 1 point. Your armor gloves emit powerful electric shocks each time you strike, which has the effect of stunning your foes and jamming your opponent's internal armor systems for a short period of time. Thermo Fists, 2 points. Your armor's gloves can heat to over 2,000 degrees and melt most of the materials you touch. Cybernetic Blades, 1 point. You can deploy 2 blades of your forearms, made of a very strong metal alloy. Nanorobots keep them sharp all the time. Vibrating Blades, 2 points. Same thing as cybernetic blades, except that these blades vibrate constantly on a very particular frequency that allows them to cut just about any material, including diamond. Kinetic pistol, 1 point. Small, very light pistol that can be deployed and retracted at will in your forearm, capable of shooting in bursts. Limited power, medium range, extremely fast rate of fire. Frost gun, 1 point. Small pistol, capable of spraying jets of liquid nitrogen. Flamethrower, 1 point. Fixed on the left forearm of the armor, projects flames over 20 meters. Cannot be used continuously for more than 30 seconds. Requires a 15-minute recharging time when emptying fuel. Makes its own fuel by continuously capturing molecules in the air and reassembling them. Shockwave, 1 point. Shockwave generators placed in each palm of the armor gloves, powerful enough to turn a car on its back and throw a human being a dozen meters away. Pulse cannon, 2 points. Cannon fixed on the right shoulder of the armor. Fires at medium rate, 3 shots per second. Intense pulses of laser light, capable of piercing a steel plate 3 centimeters thick. Maximum range, 50 meters. Machine gun, 2 points. Armor-independent rifle, capable of firing very rapidly, long-range perforating steel bullets. The rifle is with limited ammunition, but it is possible to manufacture your own bullets simply by inserting any object, stones, pieces of wood, sand, in a special compartment of the weapon, which will crush the matter and reassemble it to create its own ammunition. Small portable cannons, 2 points. 2 small cannons attached to each forearm of the armor, capable of firing small explosive guided missiles, which can zigzag in the air to pursue their target. Laser rifle, 3 points. Heavy armor independent rifle, capable of firing a constant high energy laser beam at long range. Cannot shoot continuously for more than 30 seconds before overheating, then requires 15 seconds cooldown. Metal tentacles, 3 points. 6 metal tentacles, each 5 meters long, terminated by sharp pliers, the base of which is fixed at the back of the armor. Totally flexible and thought controllable, can strike from any angle and retract into the back of the armor at will. Can also grasp and handle any object with great precision, and lift you in the air or climb walls by hanging onto it. Titan cannon, 4 points. Huge cannon attached to one shoulder of the armor, can be retracted for more comfort. That can fire an overpowering wave of energy over 30 meters, hot enough to vaporize any material. Cooldown of 2 hours between each shoot. Defense features. Reflex amplifier, 1 point. Nanoneedles placed inside the helmet of the armor, capable of injecting on command into your brain a micro amount of a chemical substance, having the effect of amplifying your reflexes for a short period of time, about 5 seconds. Time then seems to pass 10 times more slowly for you. Limited to 10 injections per day. Flexible shielding, 1 point. Very thin layer of shielding, greatly increasing the strength of the armor without reducing its mobility, flexibility, or speed of movement. Overshielding, 2 points. Very thick shielding layer, making the armor heavier and less maneuverable, but turning it into a real biped war tank, capable of taking laser and missile fire. Shield, 1 point. Large circular shield, made of an extremely resilient metal alloy, fixed to one of the armor arms. Can be retracted at will in the forearm of the armor when not in use. Corrosion protection, 1 point. Material covering the entire armor, protecting it from all types of existing acid. Energy armor, 1 point. A thin layer of translucent energy that covers the entire armor at all times without reducing its mobility. Quite fragile, can protect from blows and shots for a few seconds before breaking. Once broken, the energy armor regenerates after 10 seconds. Steel picks, 1 point. 15 centimeter long steel spikes springing from the armor when it receives damage from an enemy animal or armor wearer, impaling the opponent. They retract instantly after use. Energy net, 1 point. A net of energy that springs from the torso of the armor when an enemy is within range and immobilizes it. Electric shock, 2 points. System that permanently generates a powerful electric current in the outer layer of the armor, allowing to electrocute any enemy that would come into contact without being authorized by a wearer of the armor. Telekinetic field, 2 points. Sophisticated device integrated in the armor helmet that activates when a projectile is fired in the direction of the wearer and deflects it telekinetically. Only works on solid projectiles, not laser shots, and not on projectiles that are too powerful, missiles. Force field, 3 points. Large force field in the form of an energy bubble, 3 meters in diameter, which activates at will and protects you from any type of attack. Almost indestructible. Moves at the same time as you, keeping you in its center. Cannot be activated continuously for more than 30 seconds. Requires 5 minutes of cooldown between each use. Fortress, 4 points. 5 small metal spheres that levitate permanently around you. When you decide to activate them, the 5 spheres deploy in 5 very heavy rectangular plates, 4 meters long, made of the strongest metal alloy in the galaxy, and automatically place themselves around you so as to form a metal cube around you that protects you from any imaginable danger. 2 of the plates have small circular windows made of glass almost as strong as the metal on the plates, allowing you to see what is happening outside. Remains activated as long as you wish. When this device is activated, you cannot leave it without deactivating it. Survival features. Thermoadapter, 1 point. Internal armor temperature regulator. Heats the wearer when the outside temperature is extremely cold, and cools the wearer when the outside environment is extremely hot. Always maintains a stable and pleasant internal temperature. Water breathing system, 1 point. Allows you to breathe underwater. Breathing filter, 1 point. Allows you to breathe perfectly in environments where the air is toxic. Pocket of poison gas in marshes, jungles, caves, or extremely rare mountaintops. Water purifier, 1 point. Device to separate the water you collect in your environment from all its non-potable elements, bacteria, waste, parasites. Water generator, 3 points. Internal system in the armor, permanently capturing the water molecules present in the surrounding air and assembling them to form, each day, a quantity of drinking water sufficient to be consumed in 24 hours, allowing you to never run out of water, except in a very arid environment. The system then needs 2 days to produce the same quantity of water. Food generator, 2 points. Internal system in the armor to crush and mix organic elements that you can harvest in your environment. Bones, dead animals, plants, insects, and purify them to transform them into a paste tasteless but edible and very nutritious. Little Chef, 3 points. Small humanoid drone, very discreet, able to levitate in the air, which follows you everywhere, and whose AI gathers the knowledge of the 500 best Earth chefs of this last millennium. When you offer it any type of food, dead animals, plants, insects, it transforms it in a few minutes into a dish as tasty as the one you would be served in a luxury restaurant. Pain inhibitor, 2 points. Nano needles inside the armor that constantly inject you with a chemical substance capable of greatly alleviating physical pain, almost eliminating it. Bacteria killers, 2 points. Nanobots injected into your body before the game begins, capable of eradicating any bacteria or disease you may catch in your environment. Nanosurgeons, 3 points. A set of nanobots present in the inner layer of the armor, capable of quickly healing any wound, while closing and stitching an open wound in a few minutes, or resoldering a bone in 1 hour, etc. But these robots can only work on 1 wound at a time, and require the armor wearer to be motionless. Sleep controller, 1 point. Neural implant that allows you to fall asleep in seconds in any situation, and to recover energy during your sleep in an optimal way, allowing you to enjoy the effects of a full night of 8 hours in just 1 hour. Internal alarm, 1 point. A danger detection system that remains active while you sleep and instantly wakes you while you sleep when a hostile living being is about to attack you, or a danger is spotted in your environment. Ultrasound generator, 2 points. Emits ultrasound continuously on a very particular frequency, inaudible to human beings, but capable of repelling wild animals and predators. Mobility features. Grapple, 1 point. A mechanical grapple attached to the forearm of the armor, consisting of a long, flexible, an extensive steel cable 20 meters long, terminated by a hook that can cling to any surface. Improved running module, 1 point. Cybernetic additions on the legs of the armor that amplify your running speed to allow you to reach nearly 90 kilometers an hour when you sprint, and maintain that speed for nearly 30 minutes. Propulsion engines, 1 point. Small energy cannons placed on each ankle of the armor that allows you to jump over 15 meters high and 30 meters long, and activate when you fall to cushion your landings. Wheeled heels, 20 points. Small cyber wheels attached to the heels of the armor, similar to rollers, which allow you to move on flat ground with great mobility and absolute control of your trajectories, at a speed of up to 120 kilometers an hour. Very limited maneuverability on steep terrain. The wheels retract into the heels of the armor when not in use. Adhesive soles, 2 points. Soles covered with hook-like microhairs, capable of piercing any material. Allows you to walk or run vertically on any surface. Nautical propellers, 1 point. Back propellers that allow you to swim at very high speed underwater. Maximum speed, 90 kilometers an hour. Jetpack. Allows flying over short distances at medium speed. Has a maximum continuous flight power reserve of 5 minutes. When the energy reserve is empty, it takes 15 minutes to fully recharge. Deployable motorcycle, 3 points. Rather heavy and imposing metal cube that carries like a backpack. Can be deployed in an extremely fast two-wheeled vehicle. Top speed, 315 kilometers an hour, with sufficient energy reserve to run continuously for 2 hours. When the energy has been drained, it takes 6 hours to fully recharge. This vehicle can run on absolutely any terrain, even steep terrain, is almost indestructible, and can only be used by you. Deployable helicopter, 4 points. Same as the deployable motorcycle, but here the vehicle is a small combat helicopter, fully armoured, equipped with 2 machine guns on the flanks, with sufficient energy reserve for 2 hours of continuous flight, and a recharging time of 6 hours when the reserve is empty. Telekinetic suit, 4 points. Allows to levitate at will above the ground, and to have an ultimate mobility in the air. Average flying speed, 70 kilometers an hour. Stealth features. Silent steps, 1 point. The armor is covered with a layer of intelligent matter that mutes the sounds you make as you move, whether walking on any surface or hitting obstacles in your environment. Noise nullification, 2 points. The armor permanently generates a sound on an adaptable frequency that, by negative interference, completely nullifies any sounds you might produce within a 3-meter radius around you, including your weapons fire. Radar jammer, 2 points. Interferes with and jams all other armor wearers' radars and render them unusable within a radius of 200 meters around you. Smoke generator, 1 point. Allows you to instantly produce a cloud of smoke over 10 meters wide around you to camouflage yourself or escape a danger. Camouflage system, 1 point. The colour of the armour is constantly changing to adopt that of the elements that surround you and allow you to blend completely into the environment like a chameleon. Invisibility device, 2 points. The outer layer of the armour is covered with nano cameras and microscreens that film and visually display what is on the opposite side of the armour, making you virtually invisible. However, the system is only really viable when you are motionless. When you move, we can see some kind of visual aberrations around where you are, and a translucent shape moving. Perfect invisibility device, 4 points. Deflects light around you to make you totally invisible and virtually undetectable, whether you are still or moving. Cannot operate continuously for more than 15 seconds, and requires a cooldown of 5 minutes between each use. Body signature eraser, 2 points. Makes you absolutely undetectable for thermal sensors and laser vision systems. Precision rifle, 3 points. A sniper rifle independent of the armour, equipped with a silencer, which fires perforating bullets made of solidified oxygen, thus infinite ammunition, that the weapon manufactures continuously as you fire. Range of more than 3 kilometers, but very low rate of fire, 5 seconds between each shot. Cyber blowgun, 3 points. Small retractable metal blowgun that shoots perforating darts that can stick into the armor of your opponents and spill inside hordes of hostile nanobots that will hack into the internal systems of the armor and disable for 24 hours one of its features randomly. Utilitarian features. Motion radar, 1 point. Small screen placed on the forearm of the armor that permanently indicates, in the form of flashing light points, the presence of moving objects larger than or close to the height of a human being within a radius of 500 meters around you. Improved radar, 3 points. Same as the motion radar, except that here, the light points have different colors depending on the nature of the object. Blue equals human beings or armor wearers. Red is animal predators. Grey equals entirely mechanical beings. Yellow is unknown nature. In addition, the radar range is now 1 kilometer around you. Night vision, 1 point. Allows you to see perfectly clear in the dark. Thermal vision, 2 points. Allows you to visualize living beings emitting heat, even through obstacles, walls, mist, etc. But only if the said obstacle is less thick than 20 centimeters. Optical device, 2 points. A device built into the armor's helmet that allows you to zoom in on anything you look at, whether it's to spot microscopic details on an element of your environment, or to see something at a long distance. This device allows you to see very clearly an object the size of an apple at a distance of more than 5 kilometers. X-ray vision, 2 points. Allows you to see clearly through any matter. Maximum material thickness through which you can see, 5 meters. Telekinetic gloves, 2 points. Allows you to move objects slowly at a distance by thinking, and to direct their movements in the air via the movements of your hands. The object should not be more than 10 times your weight, and the heavier it is, the more difficult it is to lift and move. The object must be immobile or almost immobile. Maximum range of the device, 20 meters. AI Magareth, 1 point. Female AI that will give you, on request, a complete checkup of your state of health, injuries, risks of infection, illness, fatigue, anxiety, etc. Can give medical advice. AI Stephen, 1 point. Male AI that, on request, will tell you jokes and funny stories to reduce your stress or simply keep you company. Masters all existing types of humour: black humour, absurd humour, saucy humour, scatological humour, subtle and intellectual humour, cynical humour. Adapts to your taste to dynamically generate new jokes that will match your favourite type of humour. AI Clara, 1 point. Female AI that, on request, will play any piece of music that has ever existed in the galaxy. Adapts to your tastes to dynamically generate music pieces that will please you. AI Edward, 2 points. A male AI that constantly scans your environment and shows you details or elements you haven't seen, and gives you countless useful information about the fauna, flora, and geography of the planet you are on. AI Amanda, 2 points. A female AI that constantly analyzes multiple factors in your environment to deduce with incredible precision the climate changes that will occur in the next few minutes, hours, or days. Whether acid rain on the planet Red Pearl, sandstorms on Siestra, blizzards on Nemessa V5, etc. AI Bison, 2 points. A male AI with extensive military knowledge, constantly giving you tactical advice, combat strategies, all the tricks you need to know to survive on a battlefield, etc. AI Zero, 3 points. A genderless AI that has in its database intimate and very extensive information about all participants in the game, their styles, psychological weaknesses, behaviours, methods of play, decisions they are likely to make or actions they are likely to make, etc. Your sponsor. As one of the most anticipated and followed events in the galaxy, each edition of Space Hell handles astronomical amounts of money. This is why many companies are very interested in this show and also invest in it a large part of their fortune. It is unthinkable for a participant in the game not to be followed by a sponsor. This sponsor is usually a mega corporation of the Empire, whose colours the participant will wear for the duration of the game. The winner of Space Hell in order to be reintegrated into society, will have the immense privilege to enter the service of the mega-corporation that sponsored him and instantly access an important position. It's something every citizen of the Empire dreams of. And you? Which mega-corporation has decided to sponsor you? Blackfire Company. The Blackfire Company is a private army of elite mercenaries whose services are the most expensive in the galaxy. This corporation has very few members, barely a few 100,000 throughout the Empire, but each of them is, individually, an overtrained soldier with absolutely exceptional combat, tactics, and survival capabilities. The Blackfire Company usually recruits already experienced combatants, such as war veterans of the Imperial Army, or particularly skilled bounty hunters, but even these must conform to the first 3 years of service with the company, called the 3 monstrous years. During this period, the new recruits receive the most violent, harsh, and bloody training imaginable in one of the Blackfire Company's 11 secret training centers scattered across the galaxy, usually on just as dangerous planets as those where space hell takes place. These 3 years are so intense that only 1 new recruit out of 2 survives, sometimes less. However, this infernal formation has incredible results. Indeed, the Blackfire Company, specializing in ground combat and guerrilla warfare in urban or wild territory, has the reputation of never failing when a mission is entrusted to it. Its members are generally called to undertake contracts considered absolutely suicidal. And yet, their success rate since the corporation was formed 600 years ago is 100%. The Blackfire Company mercenaries usually work in teams of 20 to 30 members, but sometimes they are sent on missions in teams of less than 10, or even alone. The guarantee of success for their employer, on the other hand, is always the same. The presence of only one of their squads on the battlefield can totally reverse the course of the fighting. Company members usually retire after 7 or 8 years of service, although few survive that long, and receive an astronomical amount of money to live the rest of their lives as kings. Some decide to stay with the company and become instructors or mission planners. Others join the Imperial Army as highly regarded military advisors, and some even begin a career as independent elite mercenaries. The services of these ones are among the most sought after in the galaxy. By joining this prestigious corporation, you must submit to the 3 monstrous years. However, your armor will probably allow you to survive this training. If so, you will join the company as a fully fledged mercenary. Lyanna Society. Human hegemony is a violent society in which life has lost its sacredness. Killers for hire are commonplace, and it is easy, no matter where you live, to find someone who will be willing to execute a human target for a little money. However, Lyanna Society agents are to hitmen what Blackfire Company members are to mercenaries. The best. Classy and elegant, these professional killers are experts in the art of eliminating a human being quickly, cleanly, and silently, whether with bare hands, with a hidden blade, or with a firearm. This mega-corporation generally recruits its members very young, or even still children, and sends them to receive training of nearly 9 years in the underground school for assassins, located under the gigantic Lyanna Tower on Earth. There, they are physically trained to become real killing machines, equipped with multiple cybernetic implants capable of amplifying their strength, endurance, reflexes, and agility, but they are also taught countless theoretical skills. After training, each Lyanna Society agent speaks at least 6 languages fluently, has advanced knowledge in engineering, computer science, mathematics, chemistry, medicine, biology, and particle physics, but also in more surprising fields such as dance, cooking, or classical literature. They also receive theatre training that allows them to assume any identity and change it quickly, to be very socially comfortable, to possess great rhetorical talent, and to be able to blend into any environment, including high imperial society. However, the Lyanna Society has this in common with the Blackfire Company, that its services are extremely expensive. Also, only the Empire's elites and wealthy corporations can hire them. Generally, the agents of the Lyanna Society, when they are not hired for assassination contracts, work as bodyguards for prestigious personalities, whether politicians, actors, nobles, etc. The corporation's CEO, Alessandra Lyanna, a 24-year-old woman who recently took over the company after her father's death, is constantly surrounded by the corporation's top 6 agents. All the men and women who work for it are extremely loyal to the Lorry Yrrol Society. They would die for its name without hesitation, and would never betray it, even under the worst of torture. That is why they never retire, for they work for the Lorry Yrrol Society until their death. By joining this corporation, you will become one of its agents after 5 years of accelerated training instead of 9. You will no longer be allowed to use your armor, but will receive multiple cybernetic implants instead. Avalon Security. Avalon Security brings together the best professional hackers in the galaxy, the cream of the crop. These ones come from various places, whether they had been hackers working for a rival corporation, shadow hackers selling their services in the underground world, or cybercriminals who have committed particularly heinous computer crimes. Avalon Security, when new members join its ranks, erases their entire past in the Imperial database and offers them a new start in life, even going so far as to officially modify their names and physically erase their fingerprints. These hackers are then given access to the most sophisticated technology in the galaxy. Not only does Avalon Security have some of the most powerful quantum supercomputers ever designed, enabling it to stimulate the entire observable universe, taking into account the behavior of even the smallest particles, but it also developed, 100 years ago, a totally new technology for physically transporting its hackers into the cyber world, in the form of clouds of binary numbers and data, capable of actually moving in the galactic computer network. Avalon Security specializes in the design of security equipment for the Empire's various megacorporations, from ultra-sophisticated cameras to futuristic alarms and defense tools, such as Sentinel droids and guard androids, but their specialty is computer security. Generally, Avalon Security hackers are hired by other megacorporations to try, by any means possible, to infiltrate their security systems via the cyber world. In practice, Avalon Security hackers just put on a headset, plug cables to their brains, and close their eyes. But in reality, their minds are literally transported into the cyber world, where they must physically fight, on real digital battlefields, hordes of antivirus and monstrous binary creatures representing the targeted corporation's defense systems. Hackers really risk their lives because, if they are killed in the cyber world, their neurons can potentially fry. Their job is to fight and identify all the security holes and weaknesses of the digital creatures they face, and then try to fill those holes to strengthen their client's defense system. So the members of Avalon Security live a very adventurous and dangerous life, but, according to most of them, their enormous pay, as well as the exhilarating feeling of freedom when one travels in the cyber world, are all worth the risks. By joining this corporation, you will receive intense hacker training for 4 years before being allowed to actually practice your activities in the cyber world. Astro Pioneer, Inc. Human hegemony is a gigantic entity in constant inflation. As the Imperial forces crush Xenos civilizations on their way, daring to resist human ambition, the borders of the Empire's territory expand and encompass new, as of yet, unknown and unexplored planets. When the Empire faces a still uncharted area of the galaxy, it has the choice between risking the lives of its own soldiers to probe the terrain, or calling Astro Pioneer Inc. The latter is the solution most often chosen. The Astro Pioneer Inc. megacorporation has very consequent forces, that they are spaceships, survival armors, scientists, and mercenaries dedicated to the exploration of space inside and outside the borders of the Empire. These individuals, thirsty for knowledge and adrenaline, wishing to push the limits of human knowledge, agree, when they join Astro Pioneer Inc., to sign a contract stipulating that upon their death, all possessions and wealth they may have accumulated during their years of service will revert entirely to the corporation. In exchange, their job gives them access to a life of constant adventure, full of discoveries. The roles of the members of Astro Pioneer Inc. are diverse: to analyze the dangerousness of an unknown planet before the installation of a colony, to venture into the ruins of disappeared extraterrestrial civilizations to unearth there the abandoned technological treasures or unsuspecting secrets on the history of the universe, to open the way to Imperial vessels venturing outside the secure borders of the Empire and guarantee their safety. That is their work. Set foot in lands that no one has ever visited, grab artifacts that no one has ever touched, see landscapes that no one has ever observed, encounter Xenos civilizations isolated from everything for millennia, face unknown threats that the Empire has never heard of before. All this is the daily life of a team of scientists and explorers from Astro Pioneer Inc. This megacorporation is one of the oldest of the human hegemony, and was created very soon after the beginning of the expansion of mankind into space. So it enjoys a special status within the Empire, and is considered not as an independent society, but almost as an arm of the Empire itself, in the same way as the Imperial Army, the Secret Police, or the Imperial Administration. Astro Pioneer Inc. represents the eyes and ears of the human hegemony. By joining this corporation, you will immediately join an exploration ship within a crew of explorers as a mercenary in charge of defending the scientists on board. Hubris & Co. Within the Empire, they are infinitely poor people and immensely wealthy people. Hubris & Co.'s services are intended only for the latter, for the kind of people so filthy rich that they have experienced every imaginable pleasure the galaxy could offer, and who are so bored that they think they have nothing more to discover. That's where Hubris & Co. comes in. This megacorporation holds 70 space stations scattered throughout the galaxy, whose location is kept secret, and is revealed only to a few carefully selected trusted individuals. It is said that the Great Empress herself knows the location of only 3 of them. When a client wants to visit one of them, he must agree to have his memories slightly erased when he returns home, so that he has no memory of the route taken to get there. These stations are called the Jewels, vast space hotels offering an absolutely obscene luxury that the richest politician would not even dare to imagine. These isolated places of any civilization offer their guests, for days, weeks, months, or even years depending on the price they are willing to pay, stays during which they can indulge in all the forbidden pleasures and taboos that the human mind can conceive. With the complicity of the government, Hubris & Co. can override imperial laws within the Jewels and impose its own rules, including those that flout the most basic human rights. Thus, the rich customers who spend their holidays at the Jewels can offer themselves the services of sex slaves abducted from the 4 corners of the galaxy, of any age and any species, even xenos, animal or robotic. They may also watch gladiatorial fights in which combat slaves kill each other with electric blades and laser warhammers. They can even pay a large sum to participate in a manhunt during which Xeno is being raised in cages and released into a maze, at the mercy of the client, who can have fun tracking them down and shooting them with a rifle. In the Jewels, only the tastiest food is served, prepared by the best chefs in the Empire. You can eat exotic fruits, meat from endangered animals, or even try cannibalism and taste human meat. Anything is possible. Anything is allowed, as long as you pay the price. From time to time, some stupid people try to defraud Hubris & Co. They suffer a fate far worse than death, and end up in one of the many red rooms, in Jewel number 73, where the most sadistic clients can, if they pay a huge price, attend real torture sessions on human beings. By joining this corporation, you will be hired as a guard on board one of the Jewels, and will be entitled to enjoy most of the activities of the place, free of charge. Cybersoft Future. Virtual reality is one of the major entertainment within the Empire for the middle or wealthy classes. The technology is so advanced that virtual headsets no longer produce images on an internal screen, but, when put on, plunge their users into a deep sleep and induce a lucid dream whose environments are controlled by the AI of the game. In this lucid virtual dream, sleepers or players can even interact with the other dreaming players, forming real MMORPGs in virtual reality. Cybersoft Future is the megacorporation behind these headsets, and still today, for several decades, it has the monopoly on the virtual reality market. This company is in charge of recreating and managing tens of thousands of virtual worlds that evolve in real time with the actions of players, populated by millions of billions of NPCs and creatures. These worlds can be anything and everything, the limit being the human imagination. Fantasy worlds, horrific worlds, post-apocalyptic worlds, worlds similar to what the Earth was in very distant times, etc. However, exploring a virtual reality world is not without risk, and Cybersoft Future does everything to hide it. Indeed, there are many malicious hackers who spread viruses in virtual worlds in the form of monsters and terrifying beasts that seek to attack and kill players, with the effect of physically killing the players in reality by frying their brains or blowing their helmets at distance. Cybersoft Future agents are charged to imitate normal players and venture into the virtual worlds created by the megacorporation, where with an insanely high level stuff and maxed physical and magical characteristics. They are then responsible for tracking down viruses and executing them before they can harm real, unsuspecting players. Viruses can take the form of various creatures depending on the setting of the game: dragons, trolls, or chimeras in a fantasy world, Lovecraftian horrors in a horrific world, giant robots in a futuristic world, hordes of mutant animals and cannibals in a post-apocalyptic world, etc. In these epic and grandiose battles, Cybersoft agents obviously risk their lives at every moment. By joining this corporation, you will become one of its paid agents to explore thousands of existing virtual worlds and track down viruses before eliminating them mercilessly. Edgar Pacification Corp. Formed 200 years ago by Pierre Vincent Edgar, a former Imperial Space Fleet general. Edgar Pacification Corp., also known as EPC, is the most renowned and secure megacorporation in terms of space travel. Again, its services are extremely expensive and only the richest citizens of the Empire can afford them, but travelling aboard an EPC ship is not only extremely prestigious, but is also a real adventure. Indeed, the EPC has for characteristic, which differentiates it from its rivals, to propose to its customers space cruises only in the most dangerous places of the galaxy, where the danger of death is omnipresent. War zones with hostile Xenos civilizations at the border of the Empire, overflight of supernovas ready to explode, exploration of nebula or space trip in the vicinity of a black hole, crossing of a territory belonging to a gang of extremely ferocious space pirates, etc. Whatever your destination and the route you take, even in the most dangerous, EPC clients know they can relax comfortably in their luxury cruise ship and calmly enjoy the show. Indeed, the pilots of the EPC are the best in the galaxy, competing in talent with the Yortarian pilots, a Xenos race piloting ships by telekinesia, with an absolute control of their trajectory and their speed. It's quite simple. When a pilot of the EPC is at the controls of a spaceship, this one is so mobile and agile that it seems to have a life of its own. In addition to being driven by the cream of the crop of pilots, EPC ships are overarmed, equipped with advanced space weaponry technology that will make some Imperial Army warships look like children's toys. The last element ensuring the total security of the passengers is the Cellar Hounds, a group of mercenaries affiliated with the EPC, among the most talented fighters in the galaxy, including some snipers, almost as good as soldiers of the Blackfire Company. These mercenaries, used to fighting Zero-G, are present in all the ships of the EPC, ready to eradicate any enemy. Besides the space crews and hostile territory business, Edgar Pacification Corp. Also provides space escort services for merchant ships that cross the galaxy and fear pirates and looters, as well as patrols around certain areas to ensure security at prestigious events. A fleet of EPC ships patrols the solar system at all times. By joining this corporation, you will join the crew of an EPC ship as a Stellar Hound after 2 years of training. Xenobiolab Agency. Medical technology works miracles these days. The richest citizens of the Empire have almost reached immortality, thanks to the regular absorption of various substances that stop aging and guarantee near-perfect health. You can grow limbs back from nothing, or even choose the physical characteristics of your child before birth. All these scientific advances would not have been possible without the contribution of the Xenobiolab Agency during these last centuries. This megacorporation includes in its ranks the greatest physicians and xenobiologists of the Empire. Xenobiolab's specialty is the study of Xenos still poorly known in any way whatsoever. The corporation has laboratories and research centers throughout the galaxy where extraterrestrials are dissected daily. There is also vivisection and many experiments to understand in detail the functioning of the organism of certain Xenos species. To constantly renew its guinea pig stock, Xenobiolab has tens of thousands of hunters in its ranks, sent regularly to the four corners of the galaxy on still wild or very uncivilized planets, in order to capture Xenos, exotic local creatures, even strange plants or fruits that also represent true scientific mysteries for human scholars. Working for this megacorporation is an adventurous and dangerous life that constantly puts you in contact with fabulous or bizarre, scary or fascinating, disgusting or attractive beings. Xenobiolab agents are in constant contact with Xenos populations, whose rest of humanity is not even aware of their existence. But they're not just hunters recruited to kidnap Xenos. Xenobiolab works to develop beneficial mutations in human beings, inspired by the biological functioning of certain animal species. Overdeveloped hearing, superhuman strength, exceptional running speed, piercing vision, ability to breathe flames or produce electricity, etc. Xenobiolab agents are regularly injected with substances that allow them to temporarily acquire superhuman abilities. They are then sent directly to test their new skills in the field, for example on battlefields, or in extremely hostile environments. The Empire's goal is, of course, to develop, thanks to this technology, an army of biologically improved super soldiers. By joining this corporation, you will become a paid hunter to venture to distant planets and abduct Xenos, or test the latest technological advances from Xenobiolab. Cerebro Academy. There exist in this universe beings very rare, endowed with extraordinary cerebral capacities, not in terms of intellect, but in terms of almost supernatural faculties, unexplained by science. These beings are commonly called psionics. Within the galactic human population, their destiny is estimated at less than 1 in 16 million individuals. This number varies greatly, depending on the species. There are very many species Xenos not possessing any psionics. Conversely, the Empire has already had to deal with Xenos people within whom psionics were very numerous, such as the Azalans or the Gatraxin. A psionic can possess various faculties. Some are able to read an individual's thoughts by looking them in the eye. Others can cause sensory hallucinations in nearby living beings. Still, others have telekinetic power, can shoot electric flashes with their fingers, can levitate above the ground, can become intangible and pass through walls, can teleport short distances, etc. The powers of the psionics are usually strongly linked to their emotions and can be amplified by fear, anger, and despair. When one knows to what extent psionics are persecuted and treated as outcasts, sometimes even tracked to be executed within the human population, one easily understands the danger that can represent a psionic in freedom who does not control their powers, or who wishes to use them to do evil. Cerebro Academy agents are elite soldiers specifically trained to track down psionics, counter their powers, and neutralize them without killing them. When they capture a psionic, they take them back to the center of the study of extracerebral capabilities belonging to the Cerebro Academy on Earth, Iceland, not only to study their abilities, but also to train them to use their powers and educate them so that they become a faithful servant of the human hegemony. If the psionic is deemed too dangerous, they are simply executed. The training of psionics usually lasts 10 to 15 years. After that, they have the choice between joining the Imperial Army as war psionics, or remaining with the Cerebro Academy, either as teacher trainers for novice psionics, or as agents in charge of tracking free psionics, at the head of a squad of non-psionic agents. There are cases where Cerebro Academy psionics have been judged mentally stable enough to receive greater freedom than others and engage in other corporations, such as Astro Pioneer Incorporated or the Blackfire Company. The Great Empress of the Human Hegemony, herself a level 7 psionic, received extensive training at the Cerebro Academy when she was young. By joining this corporation, you will become an agent responsible for tracking uncontrolled psionics throughout the galaxy. Your companions. The time has come. You and the other inmates chosen to participate in the game are embarked on a gigantic spaceship, the most majestic you have ever seen in your life. This war machine, bearing the emblem of the human hegemony right next to the Space Hell Show logo, will take you to an immediate planet, where each of you will receive his armor with the equipment he has chosen, and the 10,000 participating prisoners, coming from the four corners of the galaxy, will be gathered in a single titanic ship that will drop them in a little later on the planet where the game will take place. There will follow 9 months of hell. What the hell is going on in your head right now, knowing that you will most likely die in a short time, a few months at most? You can read multiple emotions on the faces of the inmates next to you, sitting inside the ship. The faces of some of them betray anxiety, others real terror. In the eyes of a few, you can see a growing excitement, even joy. Some have dark faces, distorted by anger. Perhaps there are some of them with whom you will be able to ally during the game. Space Hell is not necessarily a solitary game. even if there will only be one survivor at the most at the end. Some do not hesitate to form alliances with other participants during the first months. You can pick a maximum of 3 prisoners with whom you will succeed in allying yourself with from the beginning of the game. All the others will indeed be participants in the game, but will not agree to ally with you. You can also decide not to pick any companion at all. Know that if you choose allies, you will have to face them and kill them at some point. Maybe they'll even decide to betray you before you do. Nerian. Convicted for desertion. Former soldier in the Imperial Army, killed 3 of his colleagues and his commander over a pay dispute before fleeing the battlefield. Smart, experienced, and very good with guns. Has an extremely cynical sense of humour. Knows a lot about other participants, even those who come from very distant prisons. Bill, Hard Mac. Convicted for murder. Independent contract killer with particularly brutal methods. His targets usually end up in such a state that it is impossible to identify them. Has a lot of humour and is an excellent drinking companion. Loves rock and roll. Has a bionic eye capable of firing powerful explosive lasers. Worships a very ancient Earth musician named Jimi Hendrix. Franz Nuller. Convicted for military sabotage and arms trafficking. Explosives expert. Mind clearance genius, has received numerous proposals to integrate the demining forces of the Empire. Always very serious about his work, almost never jokes. Served for several years in a gang of very famous smugglers who successfully defied Imperial authority multiple times. Butterfly. Convicted for theft and hacking. Originally a man. Underwent multiple surgeries to look like a woman. Always has a penis though. Very well known in the underground world, was trained as a child by the Dragonfly, a legendary hacker whose identity no one knows, who has never been arrested, and who has even thwarted for years the hackers of Avalon Security. Scream Jazar. Convicted for multiple murders, abductions, and rapes. Sadistic serial killer, getting a new tattoo every time he kills someone. 210 centimeters high and skinny. Terrifying appearance. Expert in blade fighting. Killed 5 fellow prisoners and several jailers simply because he was bored. Placed in solitary confinement for the last 7 years. Joseph Algamos. Convicted for cheating and drug dealing. Professional gambler who has scored the most luxurious casinos in the entire galactic sector. No one ever understood how he cheated, even the greatest magicians. Experienced koollman despite his young age. Very intelligent, able to improvise a strategy in a few seconds to get out of any situation. Marcus Dallas. Convicted for murder. Former gang member having been a true legend in his native Hive City. Famous for his martial abilities and composure. Has tried to leave this world of violence to rebuild his life, which did not please his former friends, who tried to murder him. Killed them in self-defense. Wants to see his wife and 2 children again and will do anything to win the game. Jean Lagarde. Willing participant. Former war hero who served in a troop of independent mercenaries, then in the elite forces of the Imperial Army for nearly 30 years. Has seen everything. Has lived everything. Has been near death more closely than anyone, countless times. Tired and bored old warrior who wishes to find a worthy opponent who will be able to kill him honourably. Loves wine and literature. Ziam. Convicted for political dissent. Private Garian, a Xenos people under human hegemony. Was disgusted with human tyranny and attempted a coup d'etat on his home planet. Has a 6% specific to his species that allows him to detect danger in advance, as well as instinctively know what is the riskiest path when he has the choice between several. Silent Angel. Convicted for murder. Local vigilante from his Hive City, was the terror of gangs and criminals. Has superhuman reflexes and mastery of multiple very lethal martial arts. Is able to neutralize several armed men in seconds with his bare hands. Made a mistake during a mission which led to the death of a policeman. Surrendered on his own after that. Emma Condor. Wrongfully accused of treason. Soldier of the Imperial Army. betrayed by a hierarchy and blackmailed, refused to yield and was the victim of a conspiracy by her officers. Sharpshooter, known for her superhuman precision and her nerves of steel on the battlefield. Doesn't care anymore what will happen to her, including dying. Just wants to kill as many criminals as possible before getting killed herself. James Garridge, willing participant. Layana Society agent hired by the Space Hell organization to participate in the game and spice up the show a bit. Almost never talks. Kills with an absolutely terrifying cold and calm. Has been trained to have no personality, desire, or ambition, and to be only a living weapon capable of executing his target in any situation. Tyler Fang, convicted for murder, armed robbery, and drug dealing. The most feared gang leader in Powder City, one of the most violent hive cities in one of the 24 sectors of the galaxy. Ruthless, already killed a guy with his teeth. Secretly tired of being feared by everyone, seeks a man worthy to be his friend and equal, able to stand up to him if need be. Sam O'Brien, convicted for war crimes. Former member of the Blackfire Company. Arrogant and cruel, despises human life, and even more his own. Expert in armed combat, master in the art of survival in hostile territory, possesses extraordinary skills when it comes to killing. Probably one of the most dangerous participants in the game among the 10,000 prisoners. Nikita Odunko, convicted for murder. Usually level 2 psionic, has been hunted and persecuted all her life, but miraculously managed to escape the surveillance of the Cerebro Academy. Able to see 3 minutes into the future when she closes her eyes. Becomes a level 5 psionic when she gets angry, becoming able to cause huge and devastating shockwaves all around her by screaming. Reynold Lamar, convicted from multiple cases of extreme violence. Former cop in a very dangerous hive city. Did not hesitate to torture and almost kill criminals. His methods were considered too brutal, and he was dismissed. Continued to practice his profession in the shadows, illegally, and to mutilate criminals until he himself was considered as such and arrested. Jose Sung Wong, convicted for murder. Former bodyguard for a high-ranking mob member. Expert in sword fighting, has emerged victorious from nearly 30 duels to death in his career. Murdered his boss when he threatened to harm his wife. 4 elite assassins were sent to kill him in retaliation. Nobody ever heard from them again. Attempted to flee with his wife to other galactic sector, but was arrested before succeeding. Leon McLean, convicted for space piracy, was part of the infamous and very feared crew of the Red Headband. Badass fighter, genuinely doesn't know what fear is. Conceives freedom as the most precious thing in the world, is willing to kill anyone who tries to take it from him. Had a torrid romantic relationship with his captain, the legendary pirate woman Helena White Death Zadrula. It ended badly. Unknown. Complete mystery. Appeared one day in prison without anyone knowing why or where it came from. Strangely, no one thought it was weird. Neither the jailers nor the other prisoners. Seems to be able to slightly manipulate human minds and distort space to teleport. Apparently a level 3 psionic. Possibly a much higher level. Hector de Maria, convicted for murder. Very famous bounty hunter, having shot down nearly 500 criminals in his career, including 13 on the Empire's blacklist. Pistolero capable of shooting with 4 bionic arms at exceptional speed with demonic precision. Has long been an inherent duelist, roaming the galaxy in search of a shooter faster than him. Lucky Simon, convicted for fraud, always has a joke to tell. Charming, likes to seduce, and spends his time pretending that he has already shared the Empress's bed. Level 4 psionic, is able to manipulate probabilities and create fields of luck and bad luck at will. Boasts of having already killed someone by increasing their misfortune to a critical level. Commander Shepard, convicted for desertion. Disobeyed his superior and decided to leave the battlefield because the reasons for the war were wrong in his opinion. Extremely capable soldier, whether as a fighter with a gun in his hand or as a commander capable of motivating his men and being an exceptional, charismatic leader. Adam number 7, Willing participant. A real human weapon, full of cybernetic implants of all kinds. Still a prototype though. Sent into the game by the Imperial generals to test his killing abilities on any terrain. If the test is successful, other super soldiers like him will be produced en masse. Designed to kill any living being with optimal efficiency. Emile Ricard, convicted for murder. Behind her angelic face and innocent smile is in fact one of the most terrifying professional killers in the galaxy. Level 3 psionic, capable of paralyzing a targeted individual by looking them in the eyes. Very good with a laser gun. Pure sociopath. Likes to play with her prey and make them suffer before killing them. One shot. Convicted for murder. Professional assassin. Probably the best marksman in the galaxy. Possesses such incredible precision that some think he is a psionic. He is not. Never missed a shot in his life. Regards precision shooting as an art, and each of his contracts as a masterpiece painting. Speaks eccentrically. Father Paul. Convicted for murder. Bounty hunter with troubled origins. Nobody really knows where he came from. Very religious. Prays every day. Bounty hunter. Always draws a cross on the foreheads of the criminals he kills with their own blood. Schizophrenic. Hires a second extremely violent and cruel personality who speaks blasphemy and rapes criminals before killing them. Klaus Pergans. Convicted for terrorism. Former soldier in the Imperial Army. Belonged to the legendary 19 Ghost Squad. A team of guerrillas known to be the most stealthy fighters in the galaxy. Capable of winning a war on their own. Expert on survival in hostile territory, has already survived alone for several years on planets as dangerous as the one where space hell takes place. Pat Handsmith. Convicted for human trafficking, ran a crew of space slavers, captured humans on isolated and uncivilized planets and sold them to Xenos races in a nearby galactic sector. Raised in a pirate crew where he killed for the first time at the age of 12. Very tough fighter, whatever the weapon he is using. Cynical humor. Hates the Empire and its representatives. Lei Lang. Convicted for illegal use of psionic powers. Level 5 psionic. Able to project beams of very intense energy from the palms of his hands, capable of piercing steel. Escaped the agents of the Cerebro Academy for a very long time, and even almost killed several of them. Abused since childhood. Has become paranoid and very suspicious of humans. Feels closer to the Xenos cause. Vladimir Hound. Convicted for cases of violence. More cybernetic than human. Only 5% of his body is organic. A combat slave, belonging to a rich aristocrat. Spent most of his life fighting to the death in illegal underground arenas. Was bought by his master when he was only 3 years old. Was raised like an animal. Today, hardly knows how to speak. Lisa Bathory. Convicted for rapes, torture, and murders. Daughter of a wealthy corporatilist. Psychopath Black Widow gets sexual pleasure from the act of killing. Kidnapped young men and women, held them in one of her private homes on a distant planet, and tortured them for days before killing them. The number of her victims amounts to more than 200. Mia Yumbian. Convicted for insurrection. Tribal warrior from a primitive society in a feral world without any technology. Fought and seriously wounded many Imperial soldiers who came to colonize his homeland. Extremely physically strong, due to the high gravity of his home planet. Knows all the ancestral techniques to survive in the world. Geralt Riviax. Convicted for political dissent. Professional Xenos hunter, roaming the galaxy to kill, for money, the dangerous Xenos creatures that inhabit the planets being colonized by mankind. Has been biologically improved in laboratory, has superhuman reflexes, strength, and endurance. Was arrested after insulting an Imperial politician who wanted to hire him as a hitman. The Nameless. Convicted for heist. Best thief in the galaxy. Able to infiltrate any place, even the most secure, and get out quietly without anyone understanding how. Has already infiltrated the palace of the Great Empress on Earth to steal an immensely valuable artifact, then returned 3 days later to put it back in its place. Was never spotted during the entire operation. IQ of 265. Diego Cerbernes, willing participant, winner of the 999th edition of Space Hell. Was successful during his life, famous gang leader, mercenary, smuggler on the border of Imperial territory, shipwrecked on a primitive planet, and gladiator in one of the jewels of Hubris & Co. Addicted to the adrenaline that Space Hell gives him. Ready to participate voluntarily in the 1001st edition if he wins this one. Welcome to the 1000th edition of Space Hell, Scum. Enjoy, and try not to die too quickly.